Welcome to the show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast. I'm Coley.
I'm Joy.
Subscribe to our YouTube page at Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast, and Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody on all social media channels.
Yeah, we love it.
So we have a great episode for everybody today. So we're gonna get right to it. So Joy, what we've been on lately?
Well, there's two things we've been on. One is our daughter Bella, who was born August 27th. Hey, Bella.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. And then the other thing is Jacques.
Jack.
Yes, who is the Kang?
You know, I think there's nothing wrong with saying that you're the king for the point of sport and just for the point of making a statement in a declaration. But I think it's great because it's reignited the debate of who is the king of R&B and just really helped reignited interest in the genre and really created a lane for somebody to step up and do something so they can actually take the crown from him. That's the thing Jacques has done is none of his contemporaries have really done nothing to really challenge him. I mean, Chris Brown, if you consider him his contemporary, but Chris Brown has been doing this for over 10 years at a very, very high level. They're not even in the same class. So who else is really doing anything R&B wise at this point? Even when you listen to R&B stations, they're just playing old hip hop from the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Like Ja Rule is on B103.
Yeah, I mean, with the king of R&B, I feel like that's a valid point to be like, it gives somebody the opportunity to like take a crown from somebody else. It's almost like he's trying to do like what rap does with the beefs and the king of hip hop and all that. So I like that because people really don't be thinking about R&B like that. I mean, they do, but I feel like a lot of the R&B that people get into now is more like the alternative R&B, like, you know, like SZA or like Anderson .Paak or stuff like that. They're not like Daniel Caesar too. I mean, people aren't just like they want that like tell me what you want. Like people don't be wanting that R&B.
There's no crooning and there's no crooning, and you really don't. For me, I don't get that sense of vulnerability. And you're talking about loving another person. I feel like a lot of it is more soul bearing. Or people just talking about breakup and despair in today's R&B. Like you just don't have, in my opinion, the crooners and the people who are singing them ballads that you want to, you know, make another baby to, or how Bella got here. You don't have that going, in my opinion, right now. I think you know, and I think that's missing. So I think what he's done is good to ignite the conversation.
I think like that music is out there. It's just for some reason not played on like black R&B stations, which is a whole nother issue in and of itself. But that music is definitely like there. I mean, to me, I'm not trying to rib, but Jacques a little bit, to me, is kind of a little bit biting that Jodeci style, just a bit. So if that's like his influence, that's cool. Like there isn't anybody else really doing that outside. I would say Chris Brown, maybe Trey Songz. I mean, you got Trey Songz out there.
I like what Jeremiah does, actually.
Yeah, Jeremiah. So, but it's just like their music doesn't like cross over. It's only played on like black R&B stations. It's not going to be on the pop stations.
And to me, none of it's timeless. Like nothing that they're doing right now is timeless. It's going to stand the test of time and be relevant 10 years from now. Like, you know, I know the Keith Sweat thing ignited a whole other thing about, you know, Keith Sweat ain't want to be played with. And you bring up his resume, all the songs that he's written and, you know, not only for himself, but other artists. But those are like classic timeless hits. You know, Silk, you know, Freak Me. Like that song is still relevant. And that song's over 20 years old. And I feel like nothing musically in the R&B scene is like, you know, has done that, you know.
But even if you think about Keith Sweat, it's like for some reason with R&B, like that type of R&B, like they're just like not crossing over. Like they're like a hit in their community, and I'm sure a lot of other people will listen to it, but it's just like not that crossover appeal, which to me is like a bigger issue. Like Chris Brown, I felt was the closest one to getting to that crossover appeal where he was just crossing over and then he messed up with Rihanna. But
yeah,
I mean, really for him to say he's the king of R&B, I feel like you gotta cross over. You gotta be known by like Sarah or somebody like Jessica or somebody like, I don't really know dude that good, you know? So how you gonna say that?
Who would you say the biggest R&B stars over the last 5 years?
The biggest R&B stars over the last 5 years.
Just one person. Last 5 years, biggest R&B star.
Well, my type of R&B isn't like
Who's the biggest R&B star?
I like Anderson .Paak. I like Daniel Caesar.
Who's
He's
the
not
biggest
bad.
star,
I
though?
like Leon Bridges. I think he's the biggest. I like Bilal. But I don't know how they translate.
So the point I was trying to get to, the biggest R&B star the last 5 years has been Sam Smith. Like, just in terms of getting an R&B song and getting it out there, he's been the biggest R&B star the last 5 years. Number 2 is probably Adele. You see where I'm going with this?
But they're like pop. They're not R&B. They're
they're popular singing R&B. That's the catch to it. So what's happening now is you're having these songs penned and written and crooned by non-black people, not even American black people, and those have been the biggest R&B songs over the last. "Stay With Me" by Sam Smith. I don't care who you are. That's R&B. It's an R&B song that's been played in the pop genre, but it also was playing on V103, that Mary J. Blige remix.
So it's the Latch song.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so
you look
argument.
at what's really, what's happened with R&B. It's being played. It's just not by us, and I think that's the and when I say us, black people. I think that's the low hanging fruit that's out there for somebody to really create some stuff and make waves, and not just be singing hooks on hip hop songs, because that's a lot of, SZA songs. She's singing hooks for other people. Same thing with Anderson .Paak. Like, that Tent song is like amazing, and that's his song, but like that's almost a hip hop song too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, he raps and sings.
But that's what we got to. You got to be able to do both now to even be viable.
Would the king of R&B be Drake? She said it.
Nick's favorite artist.
Just kidding.
But that's the thing. That's what happened to the genre. It's really been, chopped up and somewhat bastardized. So I think what Jacquet has done is really laid down the gauntlet and really put the opportunity for some of these other acts to even come back. Like, Jodeci came out with an album, but just like that power ballad, like, even Music Soul Child, like his stuff, like the Midnight Love era, like that's what I want back.
Midnight Love. Like, if you're talking about overall R&B, then you got to say Beyonce. But once you go to female R&B, people to me are kind of crossing over. It's the male African American R&B artists that aren't crossing over. I don't know if John Legend counts, but he's like Nat King Cole of like today.
Pretty much.
So I don't even know. Like, where the hell he fits? Like, he finna be like Tony Bennett, 96 up there.
Straight doing musicals.
I love Tony Bennett.
In La La Land. Yeah, everybody loves Tony Bennett.
Ain't gonna hate on him.
He makes me smile every time I see him come on stage.
So I don't even know, like, with male R&B, I don't know.
Cool. I mean, I think we the way this is going, we could have did a whole episode on this, just looking at our countdown and our timer. But I think guys, fellas out there, R&B singers, it's your move. Don't let these rappers out sing you. Don't start rapping. Like, get some songs out there. Get some hits out there. Become supergroups. Even just get these album out. Just get these songs out there. It's not that long ago. I mean, you had Tyrese, dropping major hits. Shaheem was doing stuff. This stuff was all about 15 years ago now. I'm saying it, but the stuff can be done again. The stuff is going to popular.
Even D'Angelo. D'Angelo.
There's room in the marketplace for this. People want to listen to it, and it doesn't all need to be sang by Sam Smith and Adele. And even Beyonce, like, her stuff it's just Beyonce. She's a category onto herself, and she falls into that pop category now just because anything she touches, just everybody wants to listen because there's something pulled out.
Yeah,
So, but we'll talk more about this when we get to our when we do our Grammy episode. We'll definitely unpack more, just looking at the categories and where the Carters are placed on that. So we'll unpack that on our Grammys episode. So tune in to that.
All right, our actual topic, we just did what we're on, but the topic for today is should I leave or should I stay? 10 things to consider before making the jump.
The jump.
And the jump we're talking about is the job jump, the job, making that jump from your profession, career, job, etc.
So this topic, for us has become very relevant. Just as we're both 36 years old, and we're both looking, with having a new child and having relocated, and I think specifically with you, just in your. You're being a teacher and being on leave, it just gets you to start thinking, Like, what, should I make the jump? Should I not make the jump? Do I want to do something else? Can I do something else? We have relatives who have very close relatives, i.e. your mom, my sister. They've both made job changes, still in the same career path, but they've made job changes. And we kind of see the things that they toiled with along the way. So the question about job transitioning has been a topic just amongst, us and people in our circle a lot. So we thought it was only right that we do a dedicated full episode to talk about, 10 things you need to consider before you make that jump. So, baby, you want to hop into number one?
Sure. Reason number one that you consider making the jump is there is bullshit at every job.
It's true. It's absolutely true. I can't tell you how many times, it just goes back to simply saying that, people think the grass is always going to be greener, and it's not always. There's going to be bullshit at every job. Every field, every pasture needs fertilizer to grow. So wherever you're at and then wherever you're going to go, there's going to be bullshit at every job.
So, like, what you need to consider, just to define that bullshit a little further, like, like the drama, people talking about each other, gossiping, long hours, your boss not appreciating you, them approving your vacation day. I mean, I could go on and on. Somebody
pay discrepancies when you find out your coworkers are making more than you, or they got a bonus. Like, unfortunately, that shit's gonna happen everywhere, and hopefully you get your turn at your job where you avoid it, but it's gonna catch up everywhere.
Yeah, or just like people being super competitive, like all that stuff you're gonna face at most jobs. And if you're thinking about jumping ship at your current job, you need to think like, if I how much does it really impact my work and like the quality of my work and what I'm doing? Like, if it's affecting your mental health or like physical health, maybe consider the jump. But if it's just like, you know what, this will in the field of, I don't know, advertising or in the field of teaching, you're going to encounter this stuff no matter what school you go to. So maybe the issue isn't like the job or career, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think, people, when we go through this list, what we want you guys to do is just consider all the stuff that we're gonna say here, right? We're talking about the bullshit you're gonna deal with at every job, and you just have to know you're gonna be dealing with a different, unfamiliar type of bullshit at a new job. So again, not saying that you stay and you degrade yourself and walk away from your self-worth, but it's really like understanding, like, can I really, this become magnified because I've been here so long and I know how things work and I feel I deserve to be here, or I should be someplace else? Or is it truly bullshit that's going to stifle you and, like Joyce said, affect your mental well-being, affect you when you come home to your family and the way you treat and interact with them? I think that's the type of thing, we want you to evaluate as we go through these 10 points.
Yeah, and also, like, even if you're like, well, damn, I'll just be my own boss. I mean, or I'll work from home. I mean, it's still going to be like random bullshit you're going to have to deal with. It's unavoidable. It is a part of the job. That's what you need to remember. Like, this is just comes with the job.
So point number 2, you think you're better than you really are at your current job. I can't tell you how many people get upset when they find out somebody else got promoted. They find out you got promoted, and or think that they could take their skill set, take it on the road and go someplace else.
For me, this point is really, really valid for me because I've had like a lot of job switches, and I think the main thing, I always go to a job and my issue is I'm trying to prove a point. I'm trying to prove that I'm the best person, that I'm the best teacher, that I really can change these kids or whatever. And then the truth of it is like, you're trying to prove a point and like nobody cares. And then you get upset because nobody cares, but you're not realizing that you're just trying to prove a point instead of like putting your head down and just doing the job. So it's just like, keep in mind, like, what are you trying to prove? And if you stop trying to prove something or be a change agent, would your job be better? That's all I have to say about that.
That's always an element to think about with your job and you trying to change stuff. I think the reality is somebody was probably in that seat before you. Somebody's going to be in that seat after you. And, your job is to, get your job done. And when you know you're better than what you're currently being paid or the title and the role that you have, you'll know because you'll still be able to, in my opinion, I think you're able to deliver quality work and people know you're not challenged. And that's when you really know you're better than what the job and title you have. I can't tell you the number of people I encountered, especially it's weird, either very young people or people much older who aren't good at the job in front of them, but then they already want to take on something else. And it's like you still don't have basic language correct and email etiquette and understand timing and how to send out a meeting notice and how to work. Like, it's like, make sure you're on point with your stuff, and then start to kick up a fuss about getting more out of your job.
I think it's just like, to summarize what he's saying, it's like you're just not a good employee, like point blank period. Like, you're not that good. You're not a good employee. Like, you don't come on time. Like, you leave early. You don't turn your work in on time. But like, yet you think you're this like creative genius, and you should be paid more. It's like, don't just get the job done. Become a good employee and like think about those type of things.
Absolutely. So, point number 3, Joy, you want to take us to that?
Number 3, leaving doesn't always make things better.
And I think we put point 3 here on purpose right after, point number 1, bullshit at every job. And number 2, you think you're better than you really are. Leaving doesn't make it better because the sins of your past will catch up with you in your present and your future. So, whatever issue you're dealing with, leaving doesn't make it better unless you're not grounded and have the skills and the talent to get around that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there is absolutely hostile work environments and situations that people need to exit and get out of. But if it's coming down to, what, I don't like the way that group of people like behave. They don't invite me to lunch and they do this and it's really catty, petty bullshit, some petty, Betty, mean girls bullshit. Like, don't let them take away your bag and what you're bringing home to your family. If your boss is cool and copacetic with the product and the work you're doing, don't let like other people like dictate and make it like get you to leave and you think it's going to be better because you did that. And if you're not getting along with your boss, you might not get along with your other boss. Usually there's a reason you don't get along with your boss. Personality fit, culture clash, your actual job performance has put them in risky situations. And just to build on that, people, a lot of times when you mess up, your boss is going to get shit for your mistake. And some bosses will never tell you about it, but trust me, I've gotten plenty of shit for mistakes people who report to me have made, and I have to take that L for your work. So just because, again, you think, whether me as a boss or this person over here as a coworker is making your life tougher, like you're still going to be the same quality of employee, no matter if it's the job and the desk you're sitting in now, or if it's another job and another desk you're at.
Yeah. And I think just a personal story, I mean, if you look at my resume, it's like I really don't have any job where I've been there over 2 years. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because people will look at it and be like, you're always leaving, or like, why didn't you stay? Or what was the issue? Like, after a while, people like it starts to become a habit to leave. As soon as you face some like form of adversity or something, somebody says the wrong thing, like you're just like, I'm out of here. Like, I'll find something better. And then you realize like it's really like nothing better. Well, I don't say nothing better, but it just might not be better. So you want to build that loyalty, because it will reflect on your resume if you're like leaving all the time for kind of like petty reasons, and people will like ask you about it. So just keep that in mind too.
Correct. So I think all good points that you just made right there, Joy. And I think, we can't forget people. We're not saying that you shouldn't ever leave a job. I think what we want you guys to understand is you have to do some deep self-exploration and some deep self-honesty before you make these jumps.
Right, yeah.
So reason number 4, just to keep our show moving and to get you guys more educated on what to do before you make that jump, stop comparing yourself to others, or you're comparing yourself to others. Like, you can't do that. That's the easy trap to get into, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I think too, when it comes to the comparing, like sometimes people be like, oh, she's the boss's favorite, or they're their favorite or whatever. just because they might be showing somebody else more attention, but you don't really know the reason why they're showing them the attention or why they get to do other things. Maybe they do just like put their head down and do the work. Maybe it's so many layers in politics behind why people might get more attention than others, and it might not be deserved. But you can't keep comparing yourself. You just got to try to like shine for yourself. Like, oh, they make more money at this company. We're doing the same thing, but maybe they have to put in like 10 hours a day. Like, you just don't know like what their story is in their job. You just got to do your own job, like at the best of your ability.
And sometimes too, it comes down to culture and fit. Like, you hate to say it, the truth is, how much do the bosses or the powers that be like you compared to somebody else? Sometimes you're like more than your peers and you reap the benefits, the extra perks, the extra benefits, and, more consideration when, bonus and promotion and advancement time comes up. So that's reality of it. But a lot of times you might be on the outside looking in. And I think, again, you have to be honest and live within your truth and see what this person has done and what you haven't and go from there. Unfortunate thing is sometimes that person might be more of a kiss ass and they don't necessarily play with integrity. And, you're going to have to just suck it up. Like, you weren't willing to do what they did. So, you're just going to have to suck it up and then make the choice, am I going to find happiness someplace else before I make that move, before I make that jump to another job?
Yeah, because just to build on, also the leaving doesn't make things better. It's the concept of you can, somebody could say, oh, it's great to work here. You get a job there and everything you thought that was going to happen at this particular job doesn't happen. And then you find out, then you just feel disappointed. So the point is like just going to another job, it's not necessarily make it better because they could show a great face when they interview with you. They could tour you around the building. They're on their P's and Q's. Everything looks great. And then you actually get there and it's a completely different story. So that's something to consider. Like when you're considering making that jump, it just might not be better.
And the worst thing, I think Joy hit on this earlier, is to find out this person is actually doing stuff better than you. I've had situations where, you find out that person just had been there longer. Therefore, they got the chip or they got that promotion. They got that little extra incentive more. And then there's been other times where I've, openly complained, like, why does this person get this and I don't? And then they kind of ran it. And I was like, oh, shit. Well, let me sit down and get to work and, do these 5 things so I can make sure I get that chip. So it runs both ways. I hear you, Bella girl. We hear you, Bella. It definitely runs both ways, but I think you just can't live in that comparison. It's funny. My mom challenged me one time when this one person got promoted, and I know I was pissed because I felt I should have been there too. And then she said, "Hey, how about you sit there and be happy for this person's mom?" And I said, "What?" She's like, "Just think about how happy his mom is to find out about this." And what it did was, like, it forced me to take a look inside and just like think beyond like what's going on in that office and what's going on. Just realize, like, hey, listen, like, he got this one way or the other. Like, people are going to be happy for him. Now he's going to have to do the work. Like, focus on being happy for him and his people. And then when you get yours, you're going to want that same energy back. So keep that. She really challenged me to keep that energy of just being like happy for somebody else. Like, whether they deserve it or not, doesn't matter. Like, she said, if I found out you got promoted, I'm just going to be happy. I don't care if you deserved it or not. She's like, I'm not going to care about who got overlooked. I just know that you, my baby, got it. And I'm happy for you in this moment. So she was like, in this moment, be happy for this person and don't like compare yourself. Just be happy for them. And ever since then, I've been less and less butthurt when shit happens, and I get overlooked for stuff. Like, it still hurts, but it hurts. Instead of being a 10, it's like a 7.5, and then just that little bit has helped a lot. So, we won't step on this too much more, but just be happy for somebody else. If you're gonna start comparing yourself, just be happy for them. And like my mom said, be happy for their mom or their family and what that means for them now.
Yeah, because that just makes you a jealous hater, basically. Like, you don't want to be that jealous hater that's always saying what somebody else is doing wrong or always look at what other people are doing like, oh, they didn't do this, but yet they got this. You just come off like a hater. And like you think your boss doesn't notice that stuff, but sometimes like they do. And then I know I agree with you because something I heard too is if they passing out promotions, like you should be happy because maybe yours will be next. Like,
Absolutely.
so it's just like keep that positive energy.
Absolutely.
We're gonna move on to number 5, which is your current situation is not that bad. And I feel like we kind of have been saying that throughout, but it might not be that bad. Like it's corny, but literally list the pros and cons of your position. Because like I know I had a position where I felt like, oh, I'm bored. I'm so bored at this position. But in the scheme of it, the overall position was probably the best position for me and my family. I was able to take vacation days, call in sick. You know, if I came in a little late, it wasn't an issue. If I left early, it wasn't an issue. Like when I went to work, my work stayed at work. And then when I came home, I didn't have to do work. You know, so it's like, yeah, the overall job might have been like mundane and you repeating and boring, but it's like, how does that job impact you like overall, not just in the 8 hours while you're at work, but how does it impact like your social life? Because some people, they move to a better job in quotations, but they never can kick it with their friends because they're always working. So it's like, how is it gonna, what is the work-life balance? Like maybe your current position offers you a good work-life balance. And if it does, like it might not be that bad.
To build on everything that you just said there, Joy, I think you have to look at like, is your boss looking like the other way when you come in 15 minutes late? Are they cool with you taking a long lunch so you can have a dentist appointment? Or if you need to run to your child's school, are they cool with all that? Those are the things that, it's easy to take for granted. It's funny when you get hired. I was, I'm blessed with my job to get cool perks to, and, major sporting event and cultural events. And I remember there was passes to a music festival passed out, and these things retailed for $400+. And I remember people were complaining about not getting VIP. Like you're going to this thing for free. Like there's literally literally a million people who would love to have this opportunity that you're complaining about, that you're not paying for to have right now, and you're complaining about it. So just think about like how many people would rather be like in your chair, like your job chair overall. Like as much as I complain about work and people and things that are going on, I always can come back because I know literally a million people would love to have the seat I am and have the job I'm in. So I keep my complaints to a modest level just because I know, in certain situations we are blessed to have like flexibility and versatility and flexibility to do the things we need to do in our life to work along with the job. And also look at like how, much better you are at what you're doing, a year versus where you were the previous year. If things like your development, your skill set, if those things aren't growing, if you're not a better professional than you were, if you're not a better writer, if you're not a better at what you're doing, then you can stop and be like, this is a pretty fucked up situation. But if everything is positive in the things you've been comparing yourself to other people, or you think you're being treated unfairly, but you're really not. I think those are the things that you have to just be honest about and understand your situation is not that bad before you make that move.
Yeah. And you just don't want to burn any bridges. Like your attitude thinking everything is bad, like that transcends to others. And you just never want to burn a bridge, especially if you're in a very specific field, because people remember you and they might even remember you from like state to state. So just like keep everything in perspective. Let's move on to number 6.
Number 6, and this is something that I was really passionate about putting on this list. Number 6 being that your timing is bad. Should I leave or should I stay? Your timing has to do with everything. You have to look at what's going on in the marketplace for your particular field, demand for your skill set. What's the actual? We hear you, Bella girl.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's an excellent point. You agree with data? That's what I like to hear. You just have to make sure your timing for making that leap from the job you're at to where you're going makes sense. Like 2008 was a very, very scary period in America. It's almost to the point now where if you were unemployed from 2007 to 2010, that's not considered a gap on your resume just because things were that bad. So at that time, I wanted with all my heart and soul to leave my current employer. But the reality is my current situation wasn't that bad. And had I left and went to a new thing, you know how the saying goes, last one in, first one out, that would have been me. So because of that, I was able to stick around and make things happen. And eventually I was found and blessed with the opportunities that puts me where I'm at right now. So timing, and you want to, God is going to put you where he wants you when he wants you. Not trying to get too religious on this episode, but you're going to be where you need to be when you need to be there. Trust me. You're sitting in the seat you're sitting now for a reason, and there's a purpose, and believe that there really is.
Yeah, I think that sums it up for your timing is bad. And also, like, I know Coley taught me this point a lot, because it's just like with the fiscal year too, like people don't think about that stuff. But if you had told me something about like when people apply around the like fiscal year, like just timing it right, because sometimes people don't have the budget for it at certain times of the year.
Correct.
As well. Like they would love to hire you. They just like they can't afford it. So just taking everything into consideration, and also taking into consideration it's like super competitive out here. So you want to make sure that you time it to your best advantage. Like if you're trying to be a teacher and you're applying in like in November or October, it's like most of those jobs are filled. You need to apply like in March when they trying to fill new spots for the next school year. It's just things to think about. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Can you take us into point number 7?
Sure, number 7, and this is probably something I did all the time. But for number 7, you're applying for jobs you are either overqualified for or underqualified for. So I'll just use personal experience. Like I would always apply to jobs where I was like, I would be a good fit for this. I could do this. Like, I like this company. But if you scroll down, if you're on the internet and you go down to that part that says, not just read the responsibilities and duties, because yeah, you might be able to do that, but you need to read that qualification section, which is at the bottom. Like if you don't meet those qualifications, there's a pretty high chance like your resume will just get skipped over. Nobody in the hiring office has the time to be like, you know what, her name is Joy, let's give her a shot. Like, no, they trying to see, they like, oh, she don't got a master's degree, that check. She like your resume is thrown to the side if you don't meet just the simple qualifications. So in my opinion, it's better to like, when you be looking for a job, it's better to like right away scroll to the qualifications before you even read the duties, and see if you meet those. Because if you don't, you really just wasting your time and the hiring office's time as well.
Absolutely. And I think too, you can't get obsessed with the job title, right? Your title can be program director, and it might be the same equivalent as a program coordinator at a different job. I mean, you hit it all on the head. Look at the description, specifically look at the years of experience in that field they're looking for. That's going to tell you what level of person they're looking for in terms of experience. Because if you've been teaching for 15 years, that means you've encountered pretty much every classroom situation. You've dealt with problem students, you've dealt with good students, you've dealt with bad principals, good principals. So I think you have to look at all of that, because that's what they're looking for. They want somebody with less experience. That means they're probably not going to pay as well, because with experience that has value, then you might be more qualified than your boss, and that could be the thing that can trouble you. I think a lot of times we're so thirsty to get that thing new, that shiny new toy, we forget about all of the things that could happen, and all the gauntlets and our previous reasons we've given that you could be falling into by looking for a job that isn't the right fit based on your experience and skill set.
Yeah, I agree. And with the overqualified component, if you're just like a mom like me, and you're like, I need a stress-free job, like let me just be like a receptionist or whatever you choose to do. The overqualified component is an issue, because it's just like Coley said, the first one in, or what was it? The
first one in, last one out.
Right. Yeah. Because if they got to pay you like, oh, she got a master's degree, like we got to pay her. Like they not really trying to do that. So you want to make sure it's a really good fit. Like if you look at the qualifications, if there's anything in the duties that you are unable to do, like just do not apply. Don't say, oh, they'll train me, or no, like if you can't do it, they looking for you to do it. And especially if you got a job where you making more money, they're expecting you to come in hitting the ground running. They not trying to train you if they paying you more money. They want you just to like do it.
Absolutely. I think when I look at corporate America, and I had a long conversation about unions and union life with my dad, I think the mindset of most people is you need to be working to go up. And if you're not looking to move up the ladder to become like either better at what you're doing, have more skill, or become a boss or a supervisor, that means you're out because you reached a point of diminishing returns, right? He said one of the, my dad told me in his opinion is one of the biggest things that's hurt unions beyond their inability to influence elections and get their bodies to vote for particular candidates is the fact that at some point you hit a critical mass where you can't continue to pay somebody to do the same, more money to do the same job 30 years. Like the job of doing X task has Y value. And then when you get to the point where you're still doing X task, but now you're on Z value, it doesn't make any sense. So if your job is to be a machine operator at a factory, at some point you need to be able to do multiple things because the value that a machine operator has is X. At some point you can't pay that person more money because the job is still the job. So if that person wants to just sit there for 30 years, you have to be fine making the same exact money for 30 years. But we know the world doesn't work like that because the cost of living goes up 2 to 3% every year.
Yeah, it used to work like that. It's changing now.
And it's gone now.
Yeah, they're not doing that anymore because it's so competitive out here. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, you've been teaching is an example of that. But it's like if you're not that great of a teacher, like some people are getting out of there, like because you got teachers making $60,000 and like their school is like a level 3 school.
Correct.
It's like they not gonna keep doing that.
And what do you do with the teachers making 75? So there comes a point where there's no more bumps as a teacher. Once you hit that number, you're done. Like what you do, your skill, you're done. So unless you're now taking on additional responsibilities, working additional hours, you're kind of done.
So for number 8 is you're chasing the money. Like the only reason you're
that bag.
What does Cardi B say?
Shmoney,
yeah. But anyway,
she doesn't say shmoney. She says shmoney.
Oh, like that. Okay. Anyways, I think that chasing the money is not a good reason to make that jump. Period. Like if the only reason you making a jump is for more money, not because you like the job, not because it's exciting to you, like that can be kind of problematic because with more money comes more responsibility. Like, 99, well, that doesn't go 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. That doesn't go.
Does not fit at all.
What is the song about the more money, more problems? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think too, again, everything comes with a cost, right? You might have a job where you're getting paid more money, but again, is your boss going to be as flexible as your current boss is at your new job? Will your actual work tasks be more difficult, more laborious? Will it be challenging, less challenging? How does that all play itself out when you're chasing the money too? They're going to expect a certain level of skill, professionalism, and expertise the more money they pay you. So, you want that, you want that job that pays, you want to be the boss, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. And a lot of people don't understand that. So when I, got my first job in a supervisor role, the thing I struggle with the most is I would, I'm making, the money I want to be making. I would get all my work done. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I got to worry about my team now. So now that I'm a supervisor and I have people that report to me, I'm getting more money, but now I have to make sure that everybody is engaged, everybody's making stuff happen, and everybody is doing it. And if not, that I'm evaluated more harshly. And I'll tell you this, people, the more money you make, the more you rise up, the thinner that air gets, the easier it is to get pushed off that mountain. And once you're pushed off, It's harder to get back on just because you personally can't accept it. If you're making 100,000, you're not going to want to make 80,000 ever again. Like, that's just not how we're programmed. That's not the way the world works for the most part. So once you've climbed that mountain, it's hard to get knocked down and stay down. So you just got to make sure if you're chasing that money, that you're ready for what comes with it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, with the more money you have too, like sometimes if a company has to downsize, they're gonna downsize sometimes the people who are making the most money, because they can get, for your salary, they could get 2 people, so it's something to consider when you're thinking only about the money. It's it comes with more money comes with more. It's just as simple as that.
And then too, it goes back to the we ordered these for a reason. You might not be qualified for the job, but you might get it. You might get the money, but you're going to be struggling when you're sitting there at your desk for 11 hours and you're just feeling hopeless, and you're going home and you're not the best parent. You're not the best brother. You're not the best sister. You're not the best son or daughter. Like, you're not the best friend, because trust me, it all takes a toll on you. So sometimes, you know what? I'll take 10 G's less just to have that peace of mind back. So keep that in mind before making the jump. If you're leaving just for money, like, what are you really going to do with that extra money that you can't do now? And is that potential happiness sacrifice worth it?
Right. And with the chasing the money, that goes back to point number 1, that there's bullshit at every job. When you have more money, it's like your bullshit level is going to up. The more it's going to go up, just like the money. Because people going to be backbiting. They going to be trying to get your position. Like that saying, it's lonely at the top. Like, that stuff is true. So just think about all that as well. So you ready to move on?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, point number 9.
Number 9.
Doing what you love for work is rare. I repeat, doing what you actually love as your job is a rarity.
You are going to work to get paid. That's why you're there. You're getting up in the morning to perform a set of tasks for your boss or your company so you can get a check. It's with that check that you can pursue your passions and what you love. It's very rare that you're able to take something, or it's very rare that you're able to take something that you're passionate about and find a way to translate it to be lucrative. Not to say that it's impossible, but it can be very, very tough. If it was at all possible, we would do an episode of this podcast every day and live off of that. But that's not the grind we're on right now. That's not a reality. So we get up, we work, we pay for studio time, we pay for, our studio engineer. We pay for all of that stuff because this is what we love to do, and our job is a means of getting there.
Yeah, it's very true. It's just like, just think to yourself, how many people in your circle of friends, or how many people do you know that they literally are doing what they love, like their passion, every day, and they're making like good money? It's like most people who are, like you said, most people who are doing what they love, they're either doing it for free or they're barely getting paid and they have to have another job. It's just, I feel like job searching has become romanticized. It's like, it's almost like a rom-com. If you think a romantic comedy, if you think of a romantic comedy with a relationship, it's this girl, she walking her dog in the park, she meets Prince Charming, they have one little argument, he comes and saves her when it's raining outside, they kiss, they get married, and they're back together. And it's just like, that's not really how relationships are. It's the same with a job. It's not like, your job is not a romantic comedy. You might not find what you love. Like, the odds of you going there, being happy, never wanting to leave, it's like, I don't know if that's what a lot of people are really like doing like that. Like, don't, make sure you're not romanticizing the fact that you're not doing what you love, in quotations. Just, if you want to do what you love, like, how are you going to get there? And does your job give you the opportunity to do what you love, but you just got to like put in a little bit of a grind to get there? It's something to consider.
Yeah. And I will say this. I'll say it just not because my, coworkers or potential employers are listening. I landed at a place where I can combine my love of sport and urban culture and just fashion culture in one. So I'm lucky. But I'll tell you this, and Joy knows this. Like that first year, I was so paranoid that this was going to get snatched at any time that I didn't even want her to move with me when I had to relocate to New York. I was like, no. This is too good to be true. I'm waiting for the rug to be snatched up under me. Like, now you stay here, and when it does, we can just be back together. 7 years later, that rug hasn't been snatched from under me yet. But I will say it's very rare, and trust me, I literally swept shit before I got to the spot where I'm at now. But most people don't know that, and we're gonna do another episode about like that grind to get to that job that you really want. But just know that I literally swept shit, at 420 East Ohio, to
doorman status,
doorman, maintenance man, pool attendant, did it all to kind of put myself in a position to be ready when the opportunity to work for the company I work for came up.
And it's just like a relationship with your job. It's like you're not gonna love your job every day, even if you do find a job where it's your passion. It's gonna be some days where you're like, I'm tired of this, I don't want to do this. And so it's just something to consider. Like, you're not gonna love it all the time. So just keep things in perspective and be realistic. Set realistic like goals.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great segue into number 10. I think number 10, this is probably the most important thing. And again, it's okay. Number 10, you don't know what you want to do. I think a big reason a lot of people leave a job, they feel they're destined for something greater. They feel they're destined for something bigger. And I don't know if that's a good enough reason to leave a job, right? And if you believe that you're there to work to get paid, that's your purpose in work, is to get paid, you take that as an opportunity to find your stuff.
Yeah, so you're doing these side projects, and you just want to make sure it's safe for you to fall. Like, if it's easier to try something out on your own free time, still make money, and then, like, if it doesn't work out, you could try something else, and then you could say, man, I really like this. Like, when I became a teacher, how I got into it is I volunteered working with kids, and that's how I was like, oh, I'm really good with kids. I could be a teacher, but I didn't lose money. I didn't like quit my job. I was, and now I'm stressed out. You don't want to be like that. And also, like, going back to the actual job search process, if there is a certain type of job that you're always drawn to, like you're always drawn to a certain type of job, but then you look at the qualifications and you don't meet those, then it gives you more of a plan about what you want to do. Like, if you, like, for me, I'm like, oh, I'm drawn to early childhood positions. Maybe I should go into early childhood, but I don't have the certificate for that. Let me go back to school, get the certificate, and then I can get this job that I think would be a better fit for me. And that's where reading those qualifications really does come handy. And then also, when it comes down to you don't know what you want to do, you need to think about, has your job become literally your identity? Because if you're no longer like Joy, and instead you're like, I'm Joy, I'm a teacher, like your job has become your identity. And then you really don't know what you want to do because you can't separate yourself from your work. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's an important thing to be able to know the difference.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, when you're in college, you don't identify yourself necessarily, your identity is still you and who you are, and defined by your friends and where you're from. And then the older you get, because you spend so much time at your job, you use that to define yourself. And you only naturally want your job to be something that's sexy and appealing that you can put on social media. You can have, when you're doing small talk or when you're doing icebreakers and meeting new people. But I think, there's a reason college is set up. You do your prerequisites first, right? You do a little bit of everything. You have to take your math classes. You have to take your expository writing. You have to take your social studies and all of those things. And you might be bad at some things, but, really like it. Like me, I was horrible at my math classes. So that helped me dictate I can't be in a black and white field. So I need to be in more of a creative field or something that has a little bit more latitude. I think, leaving your current job that's paying the bills, that's satisfying things, because you think it's not what you want to do. Like, you don't have that safety net of college, just finding another major, jumping from school to school. So, find your passion, satisfy that thirst, like off business hours. If you're looking to make a job change and do something completely different because it's not what you want to do, there's ways you can dip your toe in the water without doing that. Joy and I have been taking classes at Second City, and there's a number of people who have actually dedicated, like, they've quit their full jobs to go after the comedy dream full time. And, the thing that you don't know about, you hear these stories like, that's great. The thing you don't know is these people made a ton of money doing their job. Their job that they had was very, very stressful, but they were making $300,000-$400,000 a year. So they can make that type of jump. So when they tell those stories and how they were homeless, that's because they were between leases. Don't get it.
Waka waka.
So, it's okay to not know what you want to do, but don't sacrifice your well-being and your bag in that process, Yeah,
you can always, doing the side hustles, once you find something you like, then your going to work could become more fulfilling because you're like, okay, I'm going to work so that I can pay for going back to school. So you'll just like get through those days, and that's what you need to do until you can transition. Because most people who, like we already said, most people doing what they love, they had that starving artist period. So you want to make sure you can still make money, because then you just unhappy all around if you know.
I think that's what it is. Be able to find a way to make money and then find a way to be happy. It all doesn't need to happen at your work desk. If you take nothing away from this show, that's what Joy and I wanted you to walk away with. So again, should I stay? Should I leave or should I stay? I think, for us, this was a fun show to do. I think it's just been fun kind of going back and forth and being able to, really put this in black and white. So we hope you guys have taken a lot away from these topics. And we look forward to your comments and anything you might have to say to us. So before we go away, we like to end every show with, a little segment we call Things We Wish We Would Have Known. So Joy, what's something you wish you would have known?
Well, I think the thing that I wish I would have known, especially regarding the job search, but just overall in life, is how important it is to just like be content. Like contentment, that is something that so many people just don't have. And if you have the gift of just being content with what you have, like every day will just be better, instead of like going on social media, like, oh, they got this, they got that, or comparing yourself to your coworkers or thinking there's a better job out there. It's like sometimes it's just sit back, chill, and like be content with what you focus on what you do have instead of what you don't have. And that kind of will put things more in perspective if it's time for you to leave your job or leave who you're with or whatever. It's just like, it's very important. It's a very important skill and a gift to just be content. And that's something I wish I would have known, and something I wish I would have like more went after.
I think that's good. And I think I'm kind of in that same boat. I think one of the things, what I wish I would have known is when you enter the workforce, how to be a professional. Like I feel like I really, really didn't get it until, I was probably this morning. I think there's a lot to be said. Like, you go to college, you think you've graduated, you think you've done something. I think what you don't know is how to be professional, how to show up, all the soft skills, all those small things, all those small fundamentals, I wish I would have known a lot of those things. I think I probably cost myself some money and some opportunities along the way by not knowing those things. I think those things matter. I think understanding, that culture is a big part of being in a workplace and being in an environment. Like, I think you can't just think because you're smart and because what you've done in the past, that's enough. You have to know how to be professional, how to show up on time, how to speak at the right moments, how to etiquette when eating food and, even ordering food, like all those small nuanced things that, I kind of just know now, but I've been in the workforce for 15 years, so they just kind of come to me now. But wish I would have known a lot of the stuff I've known now at 22. I think I'd definitely you'd
be killing it,
man.
Yes, even if you can learn how to control your emotions at work, Now have that poker face. That's a good skill to have. I mean, some people just have that skill, and that's why they're where they're at.
Yeah. All of those things play into it. So that's our show.
Yeah.
This is the Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast.